fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery with your hosts, Eric Shapiro, David North Martino, John Copenhaver, and Al Warren. Heard on KCAA 106.5 FM Los Angeles,
102.3 FM Riverside,
and 105.0 AM Palm Springs.
We have some great guests for a show that I've caught here, and now it's airing here, and it's Haunting Australia. And tonight, part of the team that's joining us is Alan Tiller and Rayleen Kable. And welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
Yeah, good to have you here. It was really exciting when I came across your show. I liked it so much, you have to say love, that I had to get in contact with you. I think that same night I had to get in contact and say, well, I need to talk to these people. This is awesome. So good job, guys. Thank you very much for doing what you do.
Oh, thank you for watching.
I told you, I've got it on DVD recording now, man. I'm not going to miss any of it. It's it's great. Now myself, I've been in the business for a while, and but we're up in Canada here, and most of the team I haven't really had any introduction to. So let's start with Rayleen Kable, ladies first, and let's tell me a little bit about yourself, like where you got started and how you got into what you're doing.
Well, I've been a medium now for over 30 years, darling. So being a medium clairvoyant as my profession, coming on board with Haunting Australia was just a wonderful opportunity, and I was very excited about joining up with the team because everyone involved I knew was very professional in the paranormal as well as the medium side of things. So I've been doing it for over 30 years. I do quite a lot of things. I've been on radio here in Australia. I've done about 4 shows now. Haunting Australia will be is my last main production. I'm also on a show called Psychic TV here in Australia. So I'm very involved. I love my work and have been very blessed to do quite a few little radio things all around the world, actually, America as well. So it's nice to connect with the world in different ways and to do what I do. Wow. That's the stuff, obviously.
Yeah, well, in 30 years, you must have been 3 when you started.
Thank you, Alec. No, I wasn't 3. I've been very blessed to have, people say, I look all right, but I disagree. But I do look after myself, I guess, and I think being a medium and clairvoyant, it's kept me looking a little bit younger than what I really am.
Well, you don't feel any of the stress when you're doing medium, when you're picking up vibrations and talking with people? Does it not kind of give you any stress or anxiety, or?
No, not really. I'll be honest. But I must admit, this was my first investigation doing paranormal with a team of investigators. So I will say I was a little bit stressed doing, the paranormal side of it because one-on-one clients or anything like that, I know the energy, I know the environment. So it's a very different type of feel to when you're in a jail or in a pub or in an asylum, because the energy is very, very different, and a lot of the spirits aren't always completely happy, so it does make a difference. But I love it, so I guess that's what keeps me going with it.
That's great. And Alan Tiller, so tell us about you.
I've been an investigator for over 10 years now. When I started investigating, there was very little available to learn how to investigate, in Australia at least, and I kind of started my team Eidolon Paranormal based on the fact that I couldn't find anything out, so I would go out and research and investigate and then share what I found with people so they could start their own teams and investigate. That's led me to writing and starting 2 other teams, a team called SA Paranormal, which brings together paranormal teams in South Australia where I live, and we then share our investigations, things we learn with the public for free, and also started a team called the Haunts of Adelaide, which is specifically about history, mystery and paranormal in South Australia. And that has currently led me to writing for a magazine called Heart, Soul, Spirit magazine, which is a group of basically psychics around Australia, but I'm the only paranormal investigator within the magazine writing about paranormal investigation and my experiences. So it's been a long journey to coming to where I am now. And in the midst of that, I met Rob Demarest, and Rob threw the idea of Haunting Australia at me, and took about a year for us to get around to filming the show, but we got to know each other really well, and then met Ray and Ian and Garab and of course Rayleen, and we're basically a little family now. We're quite the little team that we still stay in touch with everyone, still talk. So.
I bet. I mean, it must bring you pretty close together when you're doing things like that.
Well, we basically lived with each other for 5 weeks straight, travelling together. We're all in the same hotel, separate rooms, just next to each other, ate together, so we became quite the tight little unit.
Yeah, and we had a lot to get done in a short time, so the goal was to get as much done as we could in the time frame we had. And I think that's what kept us all so close too, is that, when one of us might be feeling a bit off, we were all there for each other. So it was a really wonderful team effort.
Yeah, supportive. Well, and then Alan, now, have you worked with mediums like Rayleen before the show? Like, was this something you did normally in your investigations, or was this something new for your type of investigation?
It was completely new to me. I hadn't done much with psychics at all. I mean, I know a lot of psychics, and I've had psychics speak at my live events before, but I hadn't actually investigated with one. And Ian and Rayleen operate entirely differently to each other, so learning how they operate so that I could utilise them to further my investigation and learn from them was a huge experience. Rayleen tends to be more compassionate towards children and those kind of things. Ian seems to be more, he's an ordained exorcist, so he picks up on a lot more negative energy and moves it on. And it was a completely different experience working with both of them. And I got an opportunity to investigate with both of them at separate times, just the two of us. I think Rayleen, we investigated Geelong Jail together.
Wow,
and,
that was busy.
Yeah, and believe it or not, we actually got some stuff that wasn't shown in the episode. One of them was a really growly demonic voice, which unfortunately I think I brought forward with something I was doing at the time. Luckily we had Ian on side as well, because like I said, he's an ordained exorcist, so he could move that on when he had to.
Should we ask what you were doing, or...?
I was provoking. I tried a different type of provocation. I wasn't being negative or aggressive, but I had a rosary, and I'm actually a Catholic, and I was basically holding the rosary out, asking if anyone in the prison would like to take it from my hand, and if they could, it would be theirs. And Rayleen captured a very clear EVP that sounds like three voices layered upon each other, and they were all very growly and gravelly at the same time, which kind of fits in with the Trinity, demonic Trinity kind of thing. But that was cut from the show because so much stuff happened in every single filming that they basically tried to cut it back to what they considered to be the best. The editors considered the best stuff. So
right. Well, that's going to happen. So actually, how did you guys find each other? Like you were saying that you met Rob, and that's how the idea came up, and it took you a while. And how did you find the rest of the members, like Rayleen or Ian and everybody?
That was entirely Rob's choice. Rob handpicked everyone, and he handpicked everyone for a reason. He saw the best in those people. He actually, when he contacted me the first time, asked me for names of paranormal investigators around Australia that he could look at and see who would fit what he wanted for his show. And he eventually came back to me again and said, I want you to do the show. And I didn't hesitate to say yes, because it's Rob Demarest. Yeah. And he was looking for a psychic, and we ummed and ahed about a few, and someone suggested Rayleen, and as soon as Rob had talked to Rayleen, he knew that she was the one.
Wow. And did you feel that way, Rayleen, when you first talked to him?
Yeah, I did actually. It was just an instant, and I felt, you have a feeling when you talk to anybody. You just get that feel about whether or not you can work with them, whether or not they're gonna bring out the best in the project. And immediately when I spoke to Rob, I felt like he knew what he wanted to do. He was focused, and he would bring out the best in what he was going to do. So I definitely put my hand up to be on board, knowing that I'd be working with such a professional team. So it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite an opportunity. So now, is there now? So how many episodes? You said there was 8 episodes this last series.
Yeah, series 1 is 8 episodes.
And out of the 8, was there one that really stuck out as probably the most, I don't want to say frightening, but the most, let's say, intense? You know, something that you would love to do again, like you didn't think you got enough out of it, or you think there's more questions. I'll start with Alan.
For me, I would say the North Kapunda Hotel, not just because I'm biased and live in the town and actually do tours there every weekend, but it was such a surprise because, I mean, I knew it was haunted, but not to the level that we experienced when we filmed the show. For those who haven't seen the show, investigator Ray Jorden, when we were in a section that we call the Hallway to Hell, which is an old apartment built in around 1849, he was actually partially possessed and he collapsed on the floor and had to be pulled out by Rayleen and Ian and basically exorcised. We did not expect that to happen whatsoever. And it was all very genuine. It all actually happened for real, as you see on TV. There was no edits. Ray wasn't faking it. And I can tell you that Ray will probably agree with this, that he would not have got his suit dirty and he would never have done it on television. but I'll say... Sorry, Rayleen.
You're right. I was just saying he's definitely a proper man, and he always held himself at the highest of levels, so clothing and the way he held himself was really important. Yes. Sorry, I just had to have a chuckle.
Since the show finished filming last year, I've actually been doing tours there for a company called Ghost Crime Tours. I'm there every weekend. And believe it or not, we've had a person last weekend actually who experienced the exact same thing that Ray experienced. She was in room 9, and I was telling some of the stories from Haunting Australia, and a big gust of wind came down a long hallway, hit her, and she basically collapsed and was dizzy and was almost vomiting. We had to get her out and see that she was all right. She was all right about an hour later, but it was exactly the same thing that happened to Ray, just 2 rooms down the hallway further.
That's amazing. I remember seeing that scene. It was really intense. I loved it. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, the delay. Sorry. Raylene, how did you feel about that?
Well, there was quite a few locations. My first, I think it was our first filming. It wasn't actually the first episode. The first show on the episode. But I got very, I think it would be Woodford Academy for me. I feel like there's still some unanswered things there. And the guys might go, well, I wouldn't think that. Also Kapunda, but Kapunda, I definitely want to take the team of guys I had in with me before. I couldn't just do it without all the Haunting Australia team, because the support, the energy, that knowing going into a location like Kapunda was the only reassurance any of us had, really, wasn't it, Al? Alan?
Yeah, being that we're a team, we supported each other, and when Ray collapsed, Ian and Rayleen got him downstairs out the back of the hotel, and Gaurav and I were actually trapped in the basement at the time, and we had to try and work our way back out when we got a call to get back upstairs, and we all basically looked after Ray at the time. And then you yourself had an incident there as well, Rayleen, and we all tried to gather around and support both. So,
yeah.
What was your incident?
Well, it wasn't aired, and I'm very grateful it wasn't, because it was after the fact. It was very emotional for me. Basically, after we got Ray out, Ian was doing his work to clear the spirit, and it jumped on me. So he's doing that. It's clinging to me. I'm having all this stuff going on, and to my amazement, I really didn't expect it, and I think that's what really threw me back was, we got Ray out safe, he was fine, but as soon as we got Ray out, it happened to me. So it was just it was pretty full on, to be honest. It was very intense, and not an experience I'd like to go through again, to be honest. It's one of those, I'd give it a miss, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, takes a lot out of you, doesn't it?
Totally.
Yeah. Is there anybody that has influenced you in the business, in what you do beforehand? Is there somebody that you watch, or somebody that's done something that's sort of really stayed with you over time? Alan, I'll start with you.
I'm before the show, I guess you'd call me a fanboy. I've pretty much watched every paranormal show there is. I always liked Aaron Goodwin on Ghost Adventures. He's not so aggressive, I guess you would call Zach. Aaron seems to stand back a bit more, and he's the scapegoat, I suppose you'd call him. But probably the biggest thing that stuck with me, and I don't want to, kiss up to him, I guess you'd call it, but Rob has been a huge influence on me. I used to watch GHI with Rob, and then investigating with him and seeing the way that he investigated, which he isn't the person you see on GHI. I guess to some degree he is, but he's a much more compassionate man than what he comes across on GHI. And that's what stuck with me, that there are different ways to investigate, there's different ways to provoke. You don't have to be loud, aggressive, rude, you don't have to go in basically swinging punches and those kind of things. There is other ways to do it, and that's the main thing that stuck with me, is you don't have to be Mr. Aggressive. You can go in passively and still provoke and bring things out passively, and that's probably one of the things that's part of Rob's style that has stuck with me, and I now use in the way I investigate as well.
Right. Is there some? What do you think the right way of provoking is, or as you say, or the wrong way, maybe?
One of the things that Rob suggested to me going into Geelong jail, he said, if this jail was full of prisoners, would you go in shouting at them and calling them out and those kind of things? And obviously you wouldn't, because as soon as those doors open, they'd basically tear you to pieces. So the way to go in and do that is to basically go in, and one thing you could do is act as a guard, but that would also bring on negative aspects. You could go in and say that you're king of the jail. That would bring on negative aspects as well. But if you go in and act like a prisoner, and most prisoners, when they go into a jail, they aren't aggressive. They try and stick to themselves. You will get noticed by the spirits that are there if they are ex-prisoners. And that's a way of still provoking, but you're not being negative, you're not being aggressive. I believe someone like Barry Fitzgerald might have called that Singapore theory. I think that's what they called it. I can't exactly remember. But it's a way of provoking where you may say dress up as a guard or dress up as a prisoner. And you are still provoking by being there dressed up in the way you are, but you're not being aggressive.
Right. And so Rayleen, so who is your influences, or who has stuck with you over years in the sense of kind of?
Well, with my mediumship, I could give you two lovely names, Doris Stokes and Edgar Casey. I look at every medium that's been past and still here. So, but I do look towards the mediums from past more than I do the present. But as in for the paranormal, I must admit 100% with Alan here. Rob Demarest was a great team leader, and it's, if anything, that sparked my interest, seeing the style that he has and his sincerity in wanting to connect, and get evidence that the spirits, within the location. So from the paranormal side, I'd say Rob and the guys have been my biggest inspiration and I look up to. From the medium side, I'd have to say, Doris Stokes and Edgar Casey.
Wow, that's great. Okay, we're going to stop for a little break here, and we'll be right back after this. Okay, we're back now, and this has been just great so far. And now, so we were talking a little bit about different places you've been to, and one that seemed really interesting was the Convicts Court. And how can you explain about that? With the event that happened there. Who wants to start with that one?
Well, I think sorry.
All yours, Rayleen.
Okay. Actually, it was a part of one of the locations. It was the Convicts Quarters, but it was called Gledswood Village, was it? Gledswood's Village, I think.
Gledswood Homestead.
Homestead. And for myself personally, it was quite a lovely experience, because in this particular location, it was Convicts Quarters, and so this homestead was quite an ancient, old homestead, one of the oldest in the areas, and had a lot of lucrative families. But my experience there with a little girl spirit was quite amazing. The way she described her passing, and the way that she described what she was going through before she passed was truly amazing. And I went in solo to do the investigation, and then afterwards, I'll let you go on with that, Alan, but Alan went in and had an experience of his own. Over to you, Alan.
So part of what we did with Haunting Australia was when our psychics had gone through somewhere, they generally led, as you'll see in the episodes, they go through first. Then the tech guys would come through and we would try and validate what the psychics had felt. And at Gledswood Homestead, which I believe is episode 4, Rayleen went through the convicts quarters and she was basically having visions, I guess you would call it, of the little girl that had passed away. She died of scarlet fever in the late 1800s. And while I was in there, I actually had my millimeter go up to one of its highest settings I've ever had on. I think it was about 64 at one stage, 64 milligauss, which is incredibly huge. And the only power that was in this particular part was the overhead lighting, which is, we tested it before and it wasn't even putting out any kind of milligauss anywhere near this level. And not long after, there was all these cold breezes coming through, and myself and Ian Lawman, who's the psychic, were going through trying to work out where the wind was coming from. We tested the windows, we lit up the roof to have a look to see what was up there, if there was any holes or those kind of things. And we couldn't find any reason that this breeze was swirling around through this room. We're talking temperatures probably 20 degrees lower than the atmospheric temperature at the time, just in certain pockets of the room. And it came across as though something was trying to contact us and hold our hands. And that kind of came across as what Rayleen was telling us previously of the little girl needing comfort because she was passing away very slowly and painfully. And the little girl was trying to communicate with us via touch and by the temperature drop and obviously the milligauss readings.
She was quite a sweetie.
And so Rayleen, does that really get emotional for you?
It can do if I allow it, but I can't really allow it because it's in the moment, and I've got to, for me to be a clear channel and a true channel, I really need to be able to detach from my emotions. Often after I've done what I have to do, whether it's with a client or TV, I'll step back and then the realization will hit me, wow, that poor soul went through a hard time. Do you know what I mean? But when I'm channeling, no, I tend to be I have to be that clear vessel, so I can't really. But afterwards, after the fact, yeah, definitely, yeah, especially when it's children. I have a very big soft spot for children. And I find that when I'm doing my work as a medium, a lot of younger spirits will come to me. I don't know if they think I'm a lot younger than what I am or I'm just a playful spirit. Well, I'm a bit of a playful spirit myself. So I just wonder if they feel, and I am a mother as well, so I have children. So sometimes I think that's a little bit of a link, and they feel safe. And I guess that's the most important thing when I'm doing any of my medium work with children.
Right. And so now, was there did you come across a lot of children in these eight episodes in other locations as well that you?
Yeah, definitely. And we had one when we were at Woodford Academy. That's one of the episodes as well. And I was working with Rob Demarest in the schoolhouse. And I had a lot of children when I think about it, Alan. And it was just amazing. And even Rob's approach with the children was great because he was getting the spirit to acknowledge that he was there as well. And so I was hearing and seeing and feeling and having all that happening, and Rob's trying to capture it all scientifically, which was brilliant, but his approach was just amazing. And so often the little spirits would come out because they felt safe. They didn't feel like they were being pushed to do anything. And that's not just from the medium side. I think that's also the fact that they felt safe with the investigators, because if they didn't, they wouldn't.
Yeah, they felt comfortable. They weren't feeling threatened or pushed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So now, Alan, can you explain a little bit about the when you guys are doing the investigation? What's kind of like the process, the step process? How you start? Well, how you select a place first of all, and then when you get there, how is it you first set up and the equipment and things like that? Is there a process?
So, With Haunting Australia, before we even got to filming, Rob and I sorted out the locations. He basically asked me to write a list of everywhere that I thought was the most haunted places. So we weren't going to go to places that, may have a ghost or may have a story. These were places that had continuously been reported for the last 200 years of Australian colony of being haunted places. So basically I wrote a list of every state. We worked that down to probably about 20 locations. The production company themselves chose 3 states to choose from. I actually had to get my home state put in there because they weren't originally going to come here. And basically we whittled it down to 8 locations that we could match in with the timing schedule for our shoot, because some places we really, really wanted, but the timing schedule that we had, which was all of August and part of September, they couldn't actually fit us in. So we wound that down to the 8 locations, which were considered the most haunted for each state. The investigation process, basically, I had done all the research. I'm a very big researcher when it comes to locations. That's part of what I do with my own teams. I basically look at the history, who's passed away there, who lived there, those kind of things, and they become my EVP questions. I specify people and ask them direct questions. Before each episode, generally the night before, Rob and I would talk about what we wanted to do in each location. So we would work out the technical side of things, because Rob and I basically were in charge of the equipment and where we were going to place cameras and those kinds of things. Rayleen and Ian had a much more, I guess you'd call it, organic approach, where they didn't have to worry about the tech side of stuff other than the cameras they were wearing on their bodies. And occasionally we'd give them a piece of equipment just to, give them something. And we also taught them both how to record EVPs and listen back and pick those things out so that they could verify what they were feeling and what they were getting via EVP as well if they could, which did actually happen a couple of times. So Rob and I would work it out. We'd basically look at our map of the location, figure out where we thought things may or may not happen, and then try and cover those areas with cameras. We worked out experiments we were going to do, and we actually had a list of about probably 30 or 40 experiments that we wanted to try, but most of them didn't make the episodes, unfortunately. We also had prototype equipment. Rob actually designed a whole heap of equipment himself and had it built specifically for the show. Unfortunately, most of that got cut from the episodes because, like I said earlier, so much stuff happened every time we filmed. So that stuff didn't make it. The other thing that we had to incorporate, not only did we have psychics and the tech guys, we had Gaurav, who is a metaphysicist, and coming from the Indian culture has a whole different approach. So we had to fit him in with his approach to things, and he's very much into full spectrum photography, and everyone who's watched the show would know that he got some really awesome ghost photos in his full spectrum photography, so we had to incorporate him in as well. Plus Ray. Ray has another entirely different approach. He is what you would call an old school investigator. He approaches things the older style way, bells, talcum powder, marbles, those kind of things. We did actually tech him up a little bit. We got him some marbles that are lit up in IR. They have a little IR light in them. I think they're called tactical military balls. So we took his old school and blended him a little bit with the more modern techniques. And so we had to work out who would go in where and when and those kind of things before we filmed the show. So that was mainly on Rob, because Rob being team leader, but I had a little bit of an influence here and there, especially with places like Kapunda, which I knew the layout of and I knew which parts were haunted. Arrowdale was very much a grab equipment, stick it in your bag and just go, because Arrowdale is ginormous. It is the biggest place we went to by far. The hallway for Arrowdale is about 1.6 kilometres long. It's the longest hallway is in Australia as far as I'm aware. So you can imagine 1.6 kilometres, and that's twice. There's first level, second level, then there's smaller areas upstairs, plus buildings out the back. So it's quite an extensive area to cover. So that one being a little bit more load up with equipment and just get in there and do it was a little bit different to the rest in that aspect. But yeah, our process was get the psychics in, get the psychics to find out where the hot spots are, then we would come through with equipment and try and verify everything they picked up.
And how well known were these places, like in the ghost hunting community, for instance, that you visited?
In Australia, Arrowdale would probably be considered the most haunted place in Australia, so that's probably number one out of everywhere here. A couple of the other places, Kapunda is actually known as the most haunted town in Australia, which is partly why I live here. Cockatoo Island wasn't so well known as a haunted place, but it turned out to be incredible. There's not too many whole islands that you could go to other than maybe Povlivia in Italy. But this is an island in Sydney Harbour, and it has it has an old asylum, it has old military barracks, haunted tunnels, all those kind of things that, us paranormal investigators love. The other places, they're all fairly well known actually. Most of them are in the top 20 most haunted places in Australia, other than probably the most haunted place in Australia is Tasmania. Just the Port Arthur there is incredibly haunted, but Rob has a rule of not going back to places that he's investigated before. He did that on GHI when he was on GHI. He'd done Port Arthur and a couple of other places, so we didn't go back to the places he'd already experienced. We wanted new places, fresh places for him. So yeah.
Right. Oh, so a lot of teams have already been to these places, or sort of not really?
No. Adelaide Arcade, we were the first paranormal investigation team to investigate, and I believe we still are the only paranormal team to investigate. Cockatoo Island, same thing. No one had previously investigated that. Gledswood had been. Arrowdale constantly has people in there. Geelong constantly has people in there. Woodford was known but not overly investigated. Gledswood has ghost tours, so that does get investigated a lot. Pioneer Village is also known. So yeah, mainly Adelaide Arcade and Cockatoo Island would be the more unknown, not touched places rather than everywhere else.
Yeah. Did any of those locations sort of surprise you? Like, get what you didn't want, or the other way around? Was it sort of anything disturbing or surprising?
Cockatoo Island was the biggest surprise for me. The ghost stories at the time, because we were researching right up until we filmed, and the ghost stories weren't as strong as the other places, but that place, particularly the house on top of the island, because the island has layers. There's, the ground level is an old shipbreaking yard where plenty of people died in there. Then there's tunnels that go into like a big rocky outcrop, and as you go up higher and higher, you get to the top of it, and there's a house called Billawella House. It's a very old homestead. We weren't expecting it to be overly haunted, and that's, funnily enough, is where pretty much everything happened in that particular episode.
So, how long do you work on one of these, on the production of like one show? How long does one of those investigations take, roughly?
They all vary, but I would guess probably around anywhere from 12 to 16 hours per night of filming.
Long hours.
And that squeezes back to probably about 23 minutes of the episode, because you also have our outing and our reveal. So you get, 6 investigators squeezed back down to that time. So you can imagine the amount of footage that's still floating around that hasn't even made the episode. So,
well, maybe you'll make like kind of some little bits and pieces you'll put on for everybody to see.
I have actually already done that.
Oh.
If your listeners would care to look on YouTube for a website called Haunting Oz, so haunt with an R, then ING, Oz, O-Z, you'll actually see behind the scenes that we filmed everything that we did behind the scenes, travelling, just in the hotels, eating, all those kind of things, and I've made them into about, I think there's 64 videos and about another probably 1,000 to come yet.
Wow, that's great. Are there any favourite moments from behind the scenes that you could share or talk about?
I have a moment that I wouldn't call my favourite, but it tends to be the one that haunts me the most. During the Adelaide Arcade episode, we went to a location here as our outing called Cleland, and we got to meet Australian wildlife. We got to take our international investigators to meet, wombats and kangaroos and things. And we were holding a koala called Edmund, and I was the last person in line, and Edmund decided that he didn't like me very much and started biting me and scratching me, and I actually almost lost my eye. It is actually part of that episode. It's the reveal of that episode. It's the outing of that episode. And yeah, that sticks with me. Rayleen had an incident herself at Gledswood where she came across a red-bellied black snake, one of the top 10 poisonous snakes in Australia, and Gerard actually broke his leg in the first episode. So yeah, we had a few things that stick with us.
I guess. Is there any moments that stick out for you, Rayleen? Like, not even just behind the scenes, but maybe like any surprises, like anything that you do?
Yeah, well, definitely Gledswood with the snake, because my biggest fear is snakes. So I don't think you've seen anyone run so fast. But that was one. But to be honest with you, there were so many wonderful behind the scenes and while shooting moments and I think that's what makes it so special. I mean, we've all connected on such a level that regardless to whether or not we're filming still at the moment or anything like that, which we're not, it's like we're still all together. And we had many moments. The guys, being the only female in the team, The guys are the funniest guys to be around, honestly. And I had the best time, and I felt so safe. So, yeah, every moment to me was just wonderful, being a part of the team and working working with everyone. It's great.
And how was the process for you as the medium, Rayleen? Like, because you weren't doing the same thing they were. So, when did you arrive to one of these places that you're investigating, and sort of what was your process?
I always definitely do a big clearing before I go anywhere. So as soon as I come to a location, I normally get visions before I get somewhere. So if I get a vision of a particular area or something, when I get to that location and I come across that area, I tend to know whether or not there's going to be something going on, or not always, but majority of the time, So I do a big clearing before I go in. I also do what we call protection in the spiritual sense. And everyone's got a different process of doing that. So I like to put my protection up. And then basically I just go in as a very clear vessel. So whatever I'm meant to, and I don't preempt anything. I don't think, okay, I might pick up it. I have to be as clear as I can, so I can be as true as I can in doing what I do. And if I see something, I do. If I don't say I do. You know what I mean? I'm right. Very, very, very honest about my work. So, yeah, generally the process is just to be as clear as I can, put my protection up, and also be aware of anything that I might need to share with my teammates, So if I know something's about or something's not right, I definitely would have told the guys, you know what I mean? It's like, just be aware of this or all that, do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah. So what's your method of protection? What you say it's different with everybody, so kind of...
That's a really good question, because I'm going to share it with everyone now. But you're going to laugh at me because have you seen some show Stargate?
Oh, yeah, I have some.
Yeah, and the gold rings, and when they go into when they arrive into a new galaxy or new, planet. Well, I actually envision gold rings going just like when you see Stargate, the gold rings going around my aura. And that to me is a form. And I see a lot of gold as I'm doing it. So, yeah, that's the process that I do. And of course, you just do a little bit of breathing and stuff like that. But, so I imagine that the gold rings like on Stargate.
Well, it works, right? I mean,
it does, definitely.
Now, is there any kind of a wish list of places, buildings, or anything that you'd want to do in Australia as well, like coming up as maybe another season? What would you choose?
I'd go anywhere if I went with the team.
Okay, and
honestly, I've worked with the same team I've worked with up till now. I would go anywhere. There's a lot of beautiful places here. I'd actually like to take the team overseas. Let's do that, Alan. Let's go overseas.
What do you think about that, Alan? Are you guys considering going somewhere different other than Australia, or doing another season in Australia? What do you think the future is?
I would say at the moment we would probably do the second season in Australia, but Haunting Australia has a colon in the middle, if you've noticed. It says Haunting Australia.
Right.
That colon is there so that we can go to other countries. It will be Haunting Ireland, Haunting Canada, Haunting USA, whichever the place may be. Right. So there is always the chance that the second season or a future season may not be in Australia. It may be in another country, right, which is something to look forward to. In Australia, locations that I would like to do, probably Fremantle Jail would be a good one in Western Australia. Dreamworld, which is a theme park in Queensland, would be really good. Apparently that's really haunted. There's still tons of locations we didn't even touch on here that, we would consider the most haunted places in Australia. I mean, eight places out of, I believe the original list was 100. So, there's still a lot to go. We could make plenty of seasons here if we really wanted to.
Did you think there's something different about investigating in Australia as compared to other countries, like England or Canada, US, or any of that?
Probably. Sorry,
I was saying else. So for you,
probably the major difference here is our history isn't as old as other countries. We're only just over 200 years old as a nation. Other than, of course, the Indigenous Aboriginal people, which we wouldn't try and investigate purely out of cultural reasons. We don't want to offend anyone in the Aboriginal community. and part of their culture doesn't allow them to talk about people who have passed away, those kind of things. So we wouldn't touch those kind of places here. But we have a lot of colonial history. We have, as most people around the world are aware, Australia was a convict port, except I will say for South Australia, we were a free state. We weren't settled by convicts here, which makes a huge difference, trust me. But yeah, we have a lot of convict history, and that's where our hauntings are a little bit different. They can tend to be a little bit more aggressive. I don't know whether that's because the living conditions the convicts encountered when they came here. A place in Sydney is called the Rocks, and that's kind of the heart of Sydney. It's where Sydney started. That area actually had a hospital, which now is all hotels and pubs and those kind of things along this one road, where they say around about 10,000 people died from different epidemics over about 30 years. So that's actually considered one of the most haunted places in Australia, but it's near impossible to investigate properly because it's also one of the main night spots for Sydney. So you've always got noise there. That's probably where we differ the most, though. We don't have the huge amount of history. You know, England goes back thousands of years and they have castles. We don't have any castles or anything like that. We have asylums, hospitals and pubs. That's really the major difference.
Yeah. And so for Rayleen, have you done any sort of medium work outside of Australia?
Only online, to be honest. No, my goal is to at some point. I'm very, very busy here in Australia. Like I say, I do a regular show and I do a lot of events here. But my goal is to definitely venture overseas and connect physically with people, because I do a lot of connecting. I've got a lot of international clients that I do phone reads and Skype reads and things like that. And so my goal will be definitely in the coming year or so to venture out and see what the world's got, because I've actually never been overseas physically. Oh. So I'm on a DVD called Haunting Australia, but and that's travelling the world, isn't it, Alan?
Yeah.
So that's how it's done. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, we're just taking a short break here, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back now with the Haunting Australia team, a few members of them, and let's see. Now, I wanted to talk. Now, Rayleen, I sort of saw in the bio about you're doing some healing. If you could tell us a little bit about that, like what it is that you do actually, and sort of how it works.
How it works? Okay, well, I'm a Reiki master. I don't like using the word master, but you go to certain levels. You can do 1, 2, and then master. I've been doing my healings for as long as I've been doing my, actually longer, if I was to be honest. No, I think about the same, as long as I've been doing the mediumship. Now, with the healing, what happens is you're connecting with the universal energy. So it is basically a very a non-intrusive type of healing, where you place your hands on someone just very gently, and basically you're the bridge in between, and the universe supplies you the energy to give to that person to help that person with whatever problem they're having. So it can sometimes take up to a couple of sessions to really benefit, but I've seen people come and go and never come back again, and they've been healed, or that they feel that they've got what they needed for the healing. So it's a beautiful way to work with people, though, and especially if you've got somebody who's a little bit anxious, you can explain, you give them a little bit of a test of what to expect, and then the healing can just happen nice and naturally.
Right. That must be emotional, or it must make you feel really good when things go well, right?
Yeah. There's nothing better than hearing that somebody who's had chronic leg pain or chronic migraines, all of a sudden their migraines are not there, or they've lessened, or they're just feeling, that their life's back on track. It's amazing how healing works. You can't always say it's going to be a particular area. Where you're working on the physical body, it's also working on the spiritual body as well. So, and I guess that's how we've got to look at it. We've got more than one body. We've got our physical body, but we've got our spiritual body, and then we've got our aura. So, it's like layers. You've got to work through layers, and this form of healing is absolutely amazing for that.
Right. Just ask, when did that sort of start for you, or how did you come to be aware of that sort of healing?
Well, I'm actually a qualified nurse as well, would you believe? So I've actually didn't know, did you? No. That's not in my bio, but but I'm actually I cared for the elderly. So it's almost like a natural progression. When you do something that you enjoy, that will lead you on to other things. Like, I was a nurse. I've then done the Reiki course and did the healing and did all the degrees I needed to do to do that. So I've got the best of both worlds. I had my nursing experience, which is the practical side of things, and then I've got the Reiki, which is also the spiritual side. So it really does work well when you combine the two, having both sets of knowledge. I guess that's a better way of putting it. So, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and Alan, there's one other thing I meant to ask that I didn't earlier. It was about the when you do the tours at the hotel. It's ghost crime tours.
That's correct.
Well, what's that about? Like, what does that mean, ghost crime tour?
Basically, ghosts. They're a tour group here in South Australia where I live. I came across them last year. Did a tour with them for my birthday, and believe it or not, I actually got the cast on a tour while we were filming in Adelaide, and we'd done a tour on a Friday night and through a place called Port Adelaide, and now I work for them. So what they do is, it's not just a ghost tour. We also talk about crimes that happen in locations, and none of the crimes are any more recent than 50 years. So there's nothing, close in the last 20, 30 years that may affect people that still live in the town. They're all much, much older crimes, and a lot of them are really interesting. The Kapunda crimes themselves are very, very interesting. Some of them are a little bit graphic, but they are really interesting stories. So what I do, because I'm actually the tour guide for the Kapunda part of our tours. We have 3 tours in Adelaide. One is in, like I said, Port Adelaide. One is in the Adelaide CBD, which goes to the Adelaide Arcade, by the way, which was episode 5 of Haunting Australia. And we have the Kapunda tour, which is episode 7 of Haunting Australia. So I'm basically your tour guide every weekend. So if you've seen Haunting Australia, come along and you'll get to meet me. I basically walk you through the history of Kapunda. We then go for a walk around the town and we look at places like the old Kapunda Courthouse, which was where we had our reveal for Haunting Australia, considered a very, very haunted place. Talk about history, the ghosts, those kind of things. We a few more stops around Kapunda where I talk about crimes. We visit another location in town called Ford House, which is really haunted. We end up coming back to the North Kapunda Hotel, and when we come back, I actually take people into the hallway to hell where Ray had his experience, and which is considered actually one of the most haunted parts of the hotel. So our tours are basically ghosts, crime, and history together. A little bit of mystery in there as well. There's some things that we don't have an answer for that we bring up in the tours, but everything is actually historically correct. The owners of Ghost Crime Tours, Darren and David, are very, very huge on historical references and having things made. They double check, they triple check to make sure it is definitely something that happened and we have the proper, correct story. So well worth doing if you're interested in those kind of things. So yes, it's a ghost tour plus a crime tour mixed together.
Wow, that sounds really good.
It's probably the longest explanation to get back to that point you've ever had.
No, it's actually it's interesting. I think it really is. That's the crime part with the ghost. That's just I'm into that.
Well, one of the really good things with it is we have some crimes which we think could explain the hauntings. Right. So they tie in together. They do tie together because some things that have happened in this town, believe it or not, we had a riot in Kapunda in 1893, I believe it was, and some things happened during that riot which could lead to some of the hauntings that happen in the town now. So that comes up in the tour. So, but you have to come on the tour to hear what the story is.
Oh, I see.
You get a teaser, isn't it, Alan? Is that what you call it, a teaser?
Getting on that plane right now.
Well, if you come down, I'll take you around for free. Take you for free, and you can record the tour. And
okay, this is on tape. Okay, so
just on tape. That's fine.
No, I'd love to. Actually, I just had neighbours that went down for a month.
Oh, okay. Well, for the South Australian Ghost Crime Tours, look them up online, ghostcrimetours.com.au, and you'll see the 3 different tours. They're not expensive tours. They're only $25. The Kapunda tour can go up to 4 hours, depending on how much activity we have, because we do have 2 locations that tend to have a lot of paranormal activity while we're doing a tour, which is awesome because I don't have to oversell the tour or anything because the spirits take care of it themselves.
Right. That's awesome, you know. So, what have you guys got coming up? What's for the future here? Anything new?
You're going to talk, Alan. No, that's okay. For the future, well, myself and Alan are doing a cruise together, a paranormal / psychic cruise with theme. Is it theme cruises? Sorry, Alan, I haven't got any paperwork in front of me.
I have it right here in front of me.
Do it.
So Rayleen and I, in August 2015, we are going on a cruise with Theme Cruises Australia. We are doing a paranormal and psychic cruise. It's about 7 days. We're going to the islands of Noumea, Lifu, New Caledonia, and Villa Vanuatu. So that's the Whitsundays off the Australian coast. We're going to do at least 2 paranormal investigations and 1 UFO investigation. And during the cruise, Rayleen and I will also be presenting. So Rayleen will be presenting psychic abilities, maybe some readings, maybe teaching people how to connect. And I'll be doing the paranormal side, teaching people how to investigate for themselves, how to research properly. Plus, within that somewhere, we'll also be showing a lot of behind the scenes of Haunting Australia, because I actually have hours and hours and hours of footage I was allowed to keep from the show. So it'll be exclusive to the tour. Some of it's never been seen outside of the tour. I actually have done a live show where I showed a little bit of it, but I have so much more that hasn't ever been shown publicly. So there's bits and pieces I'll be showing during our presentations, so exclusive to the tour. For people that would like to find out more about the tour, you can visit www.themecruisesaustralia.com, and all the details are on there. It's Psychics Unleashed number 4 on the website, and you'll see my smiling face and Rayleen's smiling face on there, and a big picture of a ship, and all the details are there.
Excellent.
Great.
It should be a great cruise. It really, really should. I mean, myself and Alan worked so well together, and Alan's so terrific with the paranormal, knowing he does his research and everything. It's, I even get amazed. I sit back and go, wow, how did you, find that out? How did you know that? So I'm sure anyone that comes along is going to have an absolutely wonderful time and have a lot of fun as well, I hope, Alan.
I'm sure it's going to be a blast, actually. Whole week.
Yeah. And you said something about the UFOs as well?
Yes. Theme Cruises, we're going to look at having a UFO night on the top deck of the ship. The ship's like 11 stories high. It's huge.
Wow. And
I've been talking to the creator of Theme Cruises about doing a UFO hunt from the top deck. Because we're going to be out at sea, there's not going to be any light pollution. So we're going to see the stars as they are. The whole sky is going to be lit up, and it's going to be horizon to horizon. So if there's anything out there moving around, we're going to see it from that top deck. So we're going to have a look at that, have a little bit of history about UFOs in that region, those kind of things, and sit outside on the top deck on a nice hot summer night and look for UFOs.
Wow, that sounds great. Wow, I'm there. Wow. Okay, so closing up, and so do you want to give your information, Rayleen, like contact information and websites?
Yeah. Well, my name's Rayleen Kable with a K, so I like to say that because a lot of people put C. I am on Facebook. I've got a few pages, but if you look me up on Facebook, I've also got my website, which is www.rayleenkable.com.au. And another little thing that people might be interested in is I'm on live TV here once a week, and that actually goes live stream on the computer. So that's called Psychic TV. I think it's just Psychic TV now. So if you want to look up Psychic TV, I think OZ or Psychic TV, and watch what I do and how I do it, feel free to tune in and have a look. I'm generally on Thursday nights, and that one would be www.psychictv.com.au. Apart from that, Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. What else am I on? I'm on everything. So look for me out there, guys. That's a better way to put it. Look forward to connecting with you.
Great. And Alan, any contact information for you?
Just like Rayleen, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter. You can also find me at www.eidolonparanormal.net and www.alantiller.com.au. In Canada, you can also find me via Heart, Soul and Spirit magazine, which can be bought via iSubscribe, which is www.isubscribe.com.au. It is available in Canada at the moment, actually. And you'll find with that particular magazine, it's not just paranormal, it's also psychics, and a lot of great Australian psychics. I think there's also a couple of worldwide psychics. So well worth having a read. I write a column in there every 2 months, which is about paranormal stuff, ghost hunting, how to ghost hunt, researching, and also have little little bits and pieces about Haunting Australia, things that have happened that are exclusive to the magazine as well. So it's definitely worth having a look at if you're a Haunting Australia fan. You can also find Haunting Australia on Facebook, and for our fans in Canada, you will find Haunting Australia is available on iTunes from the 19th of July.
Right.
Well done. That was well done.
Well done. Excellent. Couldn't have done it better myself. And also, everybody in Canada here now, it's on the Travel and Entertainment channel up here, and I know it's been running on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific and 10 p.m. Eastern. And coming up next on the show, we're going to have another of the team join us, Ray Jorden. And that's going to be real exciting. Now, guys, thank you very much. I know you have to leave now, and I really appreciate this. And I'm just so thrilled that you came on. And people that listen and they know, I only pick people that I really have appreciation for and great respect. So thank you, and I wish you all the well, and we'll be back after this break. Okay, we're back now, and joining us is another member of the Haunting Australia team, Ray Jorden, and now also joining us is my lovely co-host, Julie Hughes, and welcome to both of you. It's good to have you back.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now Ray, we've been talking about the Haunting Australia series, and so what can you tell me about it, as in how you guys got together?
It's almost, Warren, it's almost like 6 degrees of separation. Everyone was connected to somebody in some bizarre way. I mean, I've known Rob Demarest as a really close friend for goodness knows how many years. I've known Ian Lawman as a really close friend for years. Rob just happened to say to me, "Hey Ray, I've got this, this really good idea. I want to do this idea." So I listened to the idea. I thought, "Wow, this sounds amazing." So obviously I jumped on board. He said to me, "Do I know any psychics?" And I said, "Yeah, I just so happen to know a really good psychic," which was Ian Lawman. Ian Lawman jumped on board, and that was it. And then it kind of spiraled from there, to be honest. Probably about 9 months before we actually all got together first time in Australia, we all talked in a private group on Facebook, so we got to know each other. Everyone's quirks, everyone's likes, dislikes, talks about paranormal, that kind of thing. And then when we actually saw each other for the first time, it was like just meeting up with old friends. There was no coldness, no distance. It was just like a great group of mates getting together.
Oh, great! And how did you guys go about choosing the sites like that you had in Australia?
I personally didn't have anything to do with that. I think it was more to do with Rob and Alan. Obviously, because it was set in Australia, Alan's one of the top people in Australia, so he knows locations inside out. So I think he focused with Alan on quite a lot of locations about what could be good, what needs to be done, what's never been done. So they come up with some really great locations.
Okay. And how do you describe your position in the group? Like, what is your area of expertise in the group?
Well, I don't like to use the word expertise. I think everyone's an authority in their own kind of way. Apart from being really smartly dressed, of course. I had to bring a bit of British over to the programme. I'm kind of very old school super sleuth. I think they kind of branded me in the show. I'm very old kind of school Harry Price. I like trigger object stuff, just very plain and simple stuff, really old fashioned stuff. Not much gadgetry, but I'll get involved with the modern day gadgetry stuff. But I'm very, very kind of very old school.
Yeah. Oh, that leads, Julie, you had a good question about the orbs and that.
Yeah, and then I was having a quick look at some of the. It was just those advertisements about Haunted Australia, and one of the snapshots underneath was about all these orbs in a particular, I suppose, set. And I was quite interested in that because there's a lot of thought around now, especially in the UK, about orbs and how I think Parascience did a paper regarding orbs and really kind of very much dismissed them as paranormal activity in the main. And on the particular clip I watched on YouTube, there was, the interference in the picture was huge. So I suppose I'd like to know your take on that a little bit, Ray, and whether you believe in orbs or whether you attribute them to other things, dust, etc.
Sure. I'm very open-minded about the whole orb thing, but if I'm really completely honest with myself, which I always am, I don't believe that they're the first manifestation of spirit. I don't know. There's something about it that I just don't believe. I just think it could be dust. I mean, I was on investigation once with a former team. Sam took a really great photo and says, Ray, look at this photo, I've caught the orb. And I thought, wow. And it kind of makes you think, could it be, could it not be? But it wasn't until we zoomed in on this photo, it was a moth. So there could be reasonable explanations about what these so-called orbs could be. It could be dust, it could be a light refraction, it could be a bug, a moth. So do I believe? I don't think I do, but I am open-minded that it could be.
So you're just a little.
I kind of contradict myself a little bit. I feel.
Difficult question.
Yeah, it is a difficult question. It's like people ask me, do I believe in life after death? Well, yeah, I'm a believer, and I believe, but I need the harder proof.
Yeah.
So I suppose I've got the same view on orbs. I suppose.
You have many experiences, and your website, tells us a little bit about those. So you have a belief,
yes,
because you've had those experiences. But I suppose what I'm hearing is that you really want that kind of built upon, and you want the scientific, you want the evidence there, to back up really what you've seen yourself.
Absolutely. It's great because during some of the series, it was great because Ian and Rayleen, who were the mediums and psychics, they just didn't go in and they just didn't walk around and say, oh, I feel something here, there's a cold spot there. They went in, they were armed with cameras, they were armed with dictaphones because they wanted to bring to the table what they could almost hear for us as a team and viewers to hear as well. And I think that's a really good edge that we have there. But I do want the proof, and I do want it to be backed up by science and to be proved, because I sometimes think, guys, that maybe, we might have somewhat overlooked a crucial bit of evidence down the line that needs to be re-examined with science, that could be the proof that we're looking for.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What was there a certain place in the series that you went to that really sticks out as kind of the best evidence, or something that you didn't feel like you completed that you'd love to go back to and investigate again?
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about, Warren.
Yeah.
Do you know what? You're talking about Asylum. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was given a challenge way before. Well, I kind of volunteered myself, put it that way. I thought, yeah, Ray will do this, he can do this, and normally I could do something like that. To have this challenge. I was up for it. I was so up for it. I think I made two mistakes, and I'll be honest with that. Rayleen and myself did a walk around the location before we actually started filming. We went down to this particular area, and we looked, and I thought, oh my God, this is what I've got to do. I opened one of the cellar doors. Obviously we're in the mortuary, by the way. I opened one of the doors. Instantly, I remember this very well. Rayleen started retching, and it felt sick, so I had to close it and we had to leave the particular area. And I think when I got my time to go down and film, I think we spent so much time just, like TV setting up the shot, putting the camera there, and there. I think I overthought it too much. And I think when it came to the crunch, I just couldn't do it. I think my fear got to me so much. Had I got in, shut the door, I would have been absolutely fine. Would I go back again? Yes. Would I go back and do it again? Yes. Yes, I would.
Is there something there, Ray, about because you knew it was an asylum? Because you of course, here in the UK, we have Denby Asylum that was subject to a 5 or 6 nighter Most Haunted Live, and a lot of people would want to go back into Denby Asylum, and of course are not able to. But sometimes it's about the thought of what has happened in those buildings and the history surrounding them. Almost a dangerous way, because people who would have stayed there were not felt to be as stable as one would like them to be. So there's a risk element. So is it about the risks and the unpredictability of human nature in those buildings that draw us to them, do you think?
I think you might be right. Do you know what? I think you might be right. This was the first time I've ever investigated a vast location like Arradale. I mean, it's huge. I mean, Adam and Rayleen have probably told you it's massive. You know, it's like, what I can't get my head around is over 13,000 people died there, yet they've only got 4 mortuary chillers. Now, the maths don't add up.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's just, it just puts you in another kind of tangent, another avenue to explore, another thought train. But I've lost my thought train now. How silly is that?
Well, I think that I just know that those, I have a paranormal group myself, and you get a sense of when you're looking around what other groups are doing, where they're investigating, looking for new places to go. The way they're getting people on these nights is by going more and more into buildings that host a different type of worry. You know, gone are the days where people want to just go and investigate the local pub because it's built, I don't know, 1600s, or it's now a lot of groups. You know, you're seeing all the old jails coming up. You're seeing the asylums. You're seeing bunkers related to the war. That kind of investigation site, and obviously it's huge.
I again, I agree with you completely. I mean, when I first started out, we just used to do this as an interest. We just wanted to have a little group, go to these little locations. You know, it could be a pub, a little nightclub, a little private house. You know, something small. And over the years, you know, I've watched locations get bigger, as you're saying. They're getting darker. Teams are getting bigger, the whole industry is getting more commercial, people are now charging to get into locations. You know,
here, isn't it? Huge.
Sorry?
That's huge here, isn't it? I mean, you know, there's some locations £2,000 plus a night. You know, that's a lot of money for paranormal groups to be investigating.
It is, especially if you know, a group is self-funded, or you can't sell all the tickets, but you've sold tickets, but you don't want to let the crowds down. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. I think, you know, there's different things that can be blamed because of that. You know, it could be greed. It could be because people are cashing in on maybe featuring on certain shows. You know, people see a market for it. I don't know. I just wish sometimes that it I know we can't turn back time, but it was how it was when I first started.
Do you feel that's really kind of hurting the industry, or I'm going to saying that word, but the whole paranormal field?
That's a tricky question. My personal view is I think it's become very saturated. I think it's become every group I see that springs up. Oh, let's hold an event. Let's make some money. You know, it just seems like. I'm going to go on a rant now. It just seems like people are doing it for either to make money for the commercial business side of it, or to get onto TV. You know, I just where are the little teams that just want to do this for the enjoyment and the natural interest? You know, that's what I kind of find sad.
Yeah.
You can get very easily swept up in that, can't you? Because in order to be able to go and investigate, you've got to have funds coming in to pay for the venues if you're self-funding. So therefore, you need people paying ticket prices.
Yeah.
So I know certainly over the course of the years that I've run a group, we've had to really rethink and go back to basics and say, actually, what are we in this for? and start straight away from scratch again. Actually, we don't want these big events. What we're looking for is just to get out there and support people in their own homes, or and really do a thorough, holistic investigation.
Absolutely,
and that's so important.
It's like you'll probably, hopefully agree with this. I mean, when I first started, we used to post our little reports on the website, and that was it. We used to keep all our evidence private. It was just what we found within the group. We might release the odd EVP, but now, it's got so competitive that everyone's trying to get the most high-tech quality EVP out there, or video, or this, that, and the other. Sometimes I step back and I wonder, is it all worth it? I sometimes do, honestly.
The biggest evidence we have is ourselves, and
exactly.
I think that's the trick, isn't it? I mean, and that's where, I suppose collecting that video evidence is useful if you can, but nothing is going to be foolproof, because what we're dealing with is different perceptions, different sensitivities, and you can't take something away from just pure evidence as a human being. When you start going into terms of electronic equipment, K2s, all of those things that groups use, then you're thinking, well, there's always room for interpretation. Just everything you do with any piece of equipment out there that are currently used within the paranormal world is meaningless in many ways.
Sure. I mean, I see people post different things on social networking sites, like Facebook or Twitter, and people post these saying, we found this. It's okay to have an opinion, and it's okay to have a right to an opinion and display that opinion. But sometimes people are too quick also bashing each other's evidence, when surely we should all be working together for that ultimate goal. Have an opinion, quote or comment in a very respectful way, but don't, poo-poo it automatically. Do you know what I mean? It just...
Absolutely.
But that comes maybe with the television and stuff, right? The ego comes up, and there seems to be a lot of drama in some of the shows as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we were together for nearly 2.5 months. We were with each other every single day. So sometimes tempers did flare a little bit. We're natural. We did get on each other's nerves a little bit, because we were continually either filming, eating, apart from sleeping, of course. We were out filming, travelling on a plane, in a car. So, but we still do remain the best of friends, and I'm honoured to be in such a great team.
Yeah, it's really quite lucky to find that, where you all connect and it all goes really well. I think we've seen them in Canada, all episodes for the first series, and it plays really well. I mean, you guys have done a great job.
Well, what we wanted to bring, I think one of the most important things was to bring, and I hate to say it, something which we believe it was natural. The chemistry between all of us was real. There was no fakery. There was no, we're just doing this for the camera and walk away, and that's it. After we filmed, we would go back to our hotel and we would sit down and we would do a massive sigh and have a drink and have a talk and have a laugh. It was great because the chemistry was real. We all looked out for each other's back. I think with Rayleen, because she was the only girl, we were all very protective towards Rayleen, especially in one episode, where she comes across a certain animal.
Okay. And do you guys plan on doing this again?
Oh, we just, at the moment, it's too early to say how this would pan out, but I think we would all love to reconnect again and be back together as a team again. We'd love to do it again. And we've all talked about it. We'd love to be together again.
So what country would you like to do next?
Oh, gosh, I think, I talked to Rob about certain things, Ireland, England, I think Europe, maybe somewhere like Asia, just maybe different places, India, America, I think, has been done to death. No disrespect. Just unusual places, I think.
Yeah. So is there a place? Anywhere in the world? Is there some place that you've always wanted to that you haven't had the chance to?
Yeah, the Whaley House, just in California. I would love to investigate that place.
Excellent. Okay, we're just going to stop for a break, and we'll be back right after that. Okay, we're back now with the Haunting Australia team member Ray Jorden, and so when we left the break, we were talking about the investigation you were doing with Haunting Australia. Now, what else have you got going up, coming up, or what else are you doing now that you're back home?
Well, now I'm back home. What I'm planning to do this year is a series of charity events, which, for me, if I can use my small media profile to help others to raise money, then I will. So I recently watched a program over here called My Last Summer. It was on Channel 4, and it was about 5 people who got together, but all 5 people had got a terminal illness. And it was a 4-part documentary, and it kind of pulled a chord with me in some way. And you know, how can I say it? I got upset about it. I was inspired, and I thought, you know what? I need to do something more than what I already do. And then it got towards the end of the series, and as the series progresses, in the 4 episodes, you see 3 of them pass away, and 2 of them are left. And one of them that are left is a guy called Andy Priest. So I thought, I need to help you some way. Andy hasn't got long left now. Well, we don't know. And I got in touch with his brother, and they've got the Andy Priest Trust, which is an organisation which is being set up to help causes which Andy believed in. And so I've arranged a couple of a series of charity events. One's in London, walking up and over the O2, which is huge. And another one's a celebrity charity event in December, which is a ghost hunt.
Okay, and so what's the details of the charity, actually, because I'm not sure for the ones that haven't seen the series.
Sure. If you just put into the search engine online the Andy Priest Trust, it will come up with his website, which I actually did myself for them. They recently had a dinner about 2 weeks ago. They raised nearly £4,000 through an auction, and Andy was well enough to attend that as well, which was lovely. Yeah, it's just a way of keeping Andy's legacy going, because Andy is a believer of kind of paying it forward, you know, giving it back. And that's what I think I'm trying to do more of. Even though I'm very giving, I want to give more.
Yeah. Quite good. Lovely. Yeah. Okay. And so now the investigation. Who else is joining you for the charity investigation?
Oh gosh, that's in December. We have got a couple of names lined up. I can't reveal who they are at the moment, but there are a couple of celebrity names that are coming all the way to Warrington to join us. So it's going to be a great night. I'm also doing just a regular ghost hunt in September. That's at the Rifles Museum in Salisbury, which is a great location. It's in my hometown. So we're doing that as well, and that's for a company called Shadows of the Night, who I do various events for. So that'll be an interesting one. It's a very, very old type of building, very old legends and ghosts and all sorts of stuff. So it'll be interesting to have a look.
What will your role be, Ray, on that investigation?
Well, apart from just doing an appearance there, I'm not one of these people that will do an appearance and then kind of sit in the sidelines. So what I do, I stand up and I talk, you know, and I have a bit of banter and a bit of fun, because I think that's a great way of everyone warming up to each other. And I'm going to get involved, you know. I like to get stuck in groups, and I like to get involved and investigate their little vigils about, you know, just say they want to do an experiment, I'll join in on that experiment, and I'll give advice if I'm asked, or you know, just get stuck in. That's my job, just to get stuck in.
Very good.
Do you have your own team then that you have assembled all the time that you kind of do these things with back where you live, or is it something you just put together yourself?
I used to have a really good team called UK5 Paranormal. We were together for quite some time. We did our first TV series together, but everyone kind of went in their separate ways. Two of us went on to do a radio show for 2.5 years together. That ended, not by my own hand. A situation happened with one of the other team members where he couldn't, unfortunately, carry on. And I kind of join other teams now, and I get involved in local teams and do my own solo work, or I'll put a little something together myself. So I don't belong to any particular team right now, which is a shame because I'd like to be.
Well, Julie, get him to join.
You remember.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Breaking up a bit.
I was just implying that maybe I should grab you for my team.
Well, unless you want a team clown, yeah, I'm your man.
It's always good to have that. Come on. Now, so what's your favorite thing to do outside of the paranormal?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. I love to cook. I love to read. I love to spend time with my nieces and nephews because family is really important to me. I just like to enjoy, whatever life brings, really. And I've only been like that in the last kind of 14 years. I lost my two best friends 3 months apart, and that's kind of taught me a huge valuable life lesson to enjoy life every single day. And that's what I try to do. Whether it's staying in, going out, just going for a walk, or just going somewhere. Just enjoy whatever time, we've got left, because none of us know.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Enjoy the little bits in life that we have,
Yeah, exactly.
And now I have to ask, what do you like to watch horror or paranormal movies or anything like that, or what would be your favorite if you did?
Do you know one of my favourite films, and it kind of it still disturbs me, I think, is The Grudge, the American version of The Grudge, where she goes downstairs and she's all twisted and what have you, and that certain noise she does in her mouth, that kind of it just sends chills right up my
someone you know like that or something? No, I just...
I'd probably come across someone like that. I probably see people like that when I've had a few drinks, but it's just that, that sound. Sometimes I can hear it. It's crazy.
Yeah. I want to know, Julie had a question about that. About the mediums and how you feel about that. But
Sure.
Yeah, I suppose, for me, because you have had those experiences and you're very open-minded, how do you feel about mediums in paranormal investigations?
Oh, that's a really good question, that.
I ask good questions, Ray.
I know, I can tell. Do you know what? I'm expecting now you're going to ask me a question that's going to completely floor me. Yeah. It really will.
It's coming, don't worry.
Oh, that's okay. Do you know what? I think it depends. I've done investigations where we haven't had a medium present. And do you know what? We've had things that we believe happen. I remember we didn't have a medium on one occasion, and we were just sitting around having a break, and all these strange kind of little things started to happen, and we were just talking, having a cup of tea or coffee. So, investigators I find I'm going to get shot for this probably. I think they follow a stereotype. I don't believe you have to have a medium or psychic on investigation. You can do your research. You can, do this, do that. But if you want a medium, use a medium if you believe they're good enough or you believe what they're doing.
I think, as a medium, and Al is also a medium, but I would totally agree with you, which sounds maybe a bit bizarre because, I suppose I'm doing myself out of a place on a Paranormal Invest. However, I think my team, certainly when they've been going out and about, they always try and book days and things when I'm available. And it takes a lot for me to have to keep saying, well, you don't actually need me there. Because just that power of suggestion, having a medium there can sometimes, cause people to believe in certain things that really aren't happening just because you have a medium in the room. They don't even have to have opened their mouth.
Yeah.
It's because there's somebody there straight away. The investigation is weighted slightly towards a spiritual side as opposed to a scientific side. So for me, getting back to that raw data and evidence is fantastic.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, with the TV series, I think I can talk about this because it wasn't actually shown in the series. But when we went to one of the locations, which was the prison, which you remember, Geelong Jail, this wasn't actually shown. Gaurav and myself, we did an experiment. So down one of the hallways, do you remember? Oh, I don't know if I might give too much away. There was a situation where something happened outside of one of the cells. Okay.
Yeah.
What was how can I be tactful about this? There was something happened to one of the prisoners, put it that way. Did they topple? Were they killed? Okay, that's all I can say. We did an experiment on the ground floor. I was hypnotized by Gaurav, okay, to see whether I could be made more psychic. Which was interesting. It didn't go according to plan, and it kind of didn't go where we wanted it to go. In fact, it turned completely the opposite way with me. I got very upset. Gaurav said I was hypnotized. I was like, my eyes were closed, and I was crying. And then it kind of went a bit pear-shaped. So I kind of got a little bit angry, walked off set, and just cried my eyes out. I don't know what happened. I think it unlocked maybe something inside of me which, like an emotion which should have stayed closed. I don't know.
Right.
But it was an interesting thing, though, to try and have that kind of experiment, to be a human guinea pig, to see whether you could be made to be psychic or connect with that person in the cell. Who knows?
Yeah. I think those sort of things too. It may not have turned out the way you want it to, but I think they're really good.
Yeah.
Really good. It makes it fresh. It's interesting. It's something different, not just the standard, like you were saying.
Pretty much. I mean, I have to say that I was asked to do many things, which pretty much most of them I did, apart from that one challenge, which on reflection, I should have done it.
Yeah, you only live once. Do it.
Yeah.
So behind the scenes, there's some behind the scenes things that we don't get to see that other than that you'd like to talk about, or?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, behind the scenes, we it was camaraderie all the way. I mean, apart from the times when, we were sleeping or we just sat in silence, we were just laughing continuously, having banter. There were kind of comedy characters between Ian Lorman and Rob Demarest come up, and I wore in a couple of episodes this kind of black jacket, which was like a bouncer jacket, and my kind of character became Ray Dorman. There are behind the scenes videos on YouTube. If you put in Haunting Oz, Alan put loads of footage on them, and it's quite funny.
Excellent. Yeah. So who are your influences?
Who are my influences?
Yeah.
I really like some of like the Warrens and Harry Price, and I used to believe everything was paranormal. I used to believe everything was ghostly, but where I've done reading and where I've learned along the way, I know now it's not. So I would like to think I'm very open-minded, but very kind of old school, like Harry Price, I guess.
Yeah, excellent.
May I ask a question?
Oh yeah, go.
Oh God, this is the question.
It's not.
Everybody sit down.
No, I was just thinking, if you could work with any medium that you were able to, who would it be and why? but it cannot be Ian Lawman, because I know your mate. So who else would it be and why?
Gosh, do you know what? That's a great question. There's only a certain few people that I've worked with that I would trust and work with again, because we've become friends and I trust them and what have you. There's one guy that I've met and we've spent time with in LA called Bobby Marqueso. He appeared on a program called Conversations with a Serial Killer. It was a one-off series on Living TV. And I'd like to work with him actually on some things, and also Chris Fleming as well. I really like Chris Fleming. We've spoken a few times. I mean, just socially. We've never met in person, but I liked what he did with Gail Porter on Dead Famous. I love that. Absolutely love that. I'd love to work on cases like that. Investigations like that. And I'm going off onto one now. And there's also a new program I've been following called Cold Justice, about these two women who reinvestigate murder cases after so many years. And I'd love to work on something like that. I know using a medium within the law, on certain cases can be a bit iffy, but I would love to work on something like that with those kind of people.
It's quite a controversial aspect of mediumship, isn't it? Mediumship and crime solving. Yeah. I mean, because... Sorry? What's your view on it?
Do you know what? It could go either way. It could be either a huge success where they can actually put closure on a situation or find a body or do something like that. But in the other respect, it could be a complete epic fail. It could be the end of that medium's career. They're going to look stupid. They've got it wrong. Completely different to where they it's believed that person is. So it's 50-50 really. I don't know, but I would be interested personally to work with a medium or psychic on a case to see where it goes, just as maybe as a one-off to see, how that would pan out. Just for a personal selfish reason, I would love to see how it works or how the dynamics work of a case using a medium.
And you can test that safely, can't you, if it's a historic case? When there's a lot of cases, that's very different because it can cause delay, etc., where things aren't so clear. So I would agree, on a historic case, that would be fascinating to do.
I would love to do it there's one particular, I won't go into too much detail, but there's one particular case that happened in the 70s, which I would really like to investigate, what happened to a particular young girl who went missing, and she's never ever been found, ever. Whether she's still alive, whether she's, put somewhere, I don't know, but being a very old case, I would love to work on that one day.
Huh. So I was going to say now in your history, you did radio. What made you stop do radio?
Oh, I've done radio for quite a long time. I did a radio show called Haunted 911. It was every Wednesday, and it was a combination of comedy, celebrity guests, non-celebrity guests, talking about paranormal investigations. We played music from unsigned music bands. We had comedy sketches. We used to have, just say you guys were my guest, we used to play a game show called 20 Questions, Get to Know Our Guest, where we would throw 20 random questions at you. They could be funny. There was innuendo. It was just great, honestly. It was just the best. But unfortunately, my co-host Wayne was in a personal situation where he couldn't continue the show. I could have continued, but to be honest, it wouldn't have been the same. I could have replaced Wayne. It wouldn't have been the same because we had this most amazing chemistry, comedy chemistry that with anyone else, I don't think it would have worked. So I think the right thing to do was end the show, on a high.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad. You sound like perfectly charming. It sounds like a really good show. It'd be fun.
It was. They're all on iTunes actually, or Blog Talk. and there's some other networks that we were on. Yeah, it was fun, and we come up with the idea of using, fun with paranormal chat, putting our guests in a situation where they might not, so getting the listeners to see you guys in a situation where they probably would never see it, or hear things. I would ask questions that people were probably too frightened to ask, but me being quite ballsy, I would ask them.
Oh, that's exactly. That's the way it should be. It's nice to get that. It's different than the typical questions,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we did a show at Oxford. It was a live radio show, Oxford Ghost Week, to celebrate the launch of that. And I interviewed a few people, and I remember interviewing Kieran O'Keefe, and I really like Kieran.
Yeah.
And I asked him such a question, and a particular question, and I think he found it put on the spot, and he was just giving me these kind of like real funny looks as if to say, "What the hell are you doing this stuff?" And I've interviewed him, on the other radio show, and Steve Parsons as well. And those two together, it's just like a lot of party. Great couple of chats.
One of the horses. We're very funny guys.
Yeah. And
yes, definitely.
Both Julie and I know Kieran too as well. We yeah. And actually, I just interviewed him. It was just last week. So yeah, I know what you mean. Him and Anna, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the most amazing sense of humour. He really has. I think people see him as this doctor who, who probably isn't a fun guy, but he's actually a really fun guy. Really interesting to talk to, very funny, and I really respect him and I like him a lot.
Yeah, totally. I think sometimes he says he kind of goes about and he does a joke, and I think sometimes people don't catch it.
Yeah, definitely.
They're all listening intent and real serious, and he just kind of says it, and then sometimes it goes by and people don't catch it. It's quite
what I like about him is, again, it's what you see is what you get with Kieran. There's no kind of ego. There's no difference in personality. He's the same person over and over again.
Yeah.
I visited Hampton Court Palace with Kieran when he was telling me about how he did a lot of his studies there, and his knowledge of the history, etc., and investigating it was fantastic and really interesting to listen to. Somebody so passionate about that field, it was really refreshing.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think there are various people in life that you meet that who talk to you about certain situations, and you hang on to every single word, every tale or every story or bit of experience they're talking about. You hang on to the words and you just don't want them to stop because they're so interesting.
Yeah. Did you find it a pressure interviewing someone like that? Because I personally myself, I mean, I know him and talk to him lots, but when it come to interviewing, I felt I felt a certain amount of pressure there.
Oh God, no! No, I don't do pressure. No, God, no. How I am with you is how I would be on the radio. I remember there was one. I kind of, after knowing a few people, I can gauge where the levels are, the respect levels. I don't want to overstep the mark or anything like that. Yeah. And I remember interviewing one female psychic at Christmas. Now, my humour can be a bit risque and a bit naughty sometimes. And I said to this lady, I asked her, I don't know if I should say it.
Oh, go for it. We're a risque sort of show, so.
I said, so Marion, so it's Christmas? And she said, yes. I said, what do you do at Christmas? And she said, I get the family round. And I said to her, so Marion, who's stuffing your turkey this Christmas? I just, I would never say that to somebody who I didn't think could take the innuendo or take the joke or what have you, because I'm a huge believer in respect. Yeah. Respect my elders, what have you.
Yeah. Well, and who stuffed her turkey? No.
I think it was her. I think she stuffed it herself.
Well, that's okay too, eh? We're not judging here. That's all good. It's all good.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, did you have anything that you want? So like your personal websites or any sort of contact information that you wanted to get out there?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Facebook, Ray Jorden, or my like page, which is The Real Ray Jorden. I'm a huge advocate on Twitter. I'm a huge Twitterer. So you can get me on Twitter at Ray Jorden, or my website, which is rayjorden.com.
Excellent. Okay. Well, and Julie, any last questions?
No, do you have any questions you'd like to ask us? I guess is my final question.
Oh.
Oh, I tell you what. I think I've gauged Warren completely. I kind of, I'm feeling that I've gauged Warren completely. But you, miss, you're a different kettle of fish, you are.
Yeah. She's our secret weapon.
And do you know what I think she could be?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. I thought she's a perfect there with me. It's just perfect.
Well, yeah, of course. You complement each other very well. And I think she's one to be watched. That's my gut feeling. One to be watched.
This gut feeling you formed.
Well, it's certainly been a pleasure. I can't tell you, I haven't enjoyed an interview like this, and I haven't. This is great. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. And so the Haunt in Australia airs in England starting when?
It's scheduled for September, and next month it premieres in Sweden. So we've gone truly international at the moment.
Yeah, that's great. Like I said, we've saw it. It's fantastic. That's what made me hunt you down. It's just I just loved it. So thank you very much. And
appreciate that.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.